As the train was moving along, it suddenly jolted, as if something had gotten caught on the tracks. And then the train made an emergency stop. What happened? People began to panic. It seemed like something had collided with the train, and it was not an object, but a person. It was a very young girl. How could a little girl, without any guardian, have been on the tracks late at night? The girl was only 7 years old, and sadly, she was already deceased. At the time she was found, she was wearing a pink jumper and gray pants, and nearby, a school bag and shoes were also discovered. The police began investigating who the child was and how the incident happened. During that process, shocking facts were revealed. Forensic examination determined that the cause of death was asphyxiation. In other words, someone had strangled her. This was decisive evidence that she had already been murdered before being struck by the train. The case was now reclassified from an accident to a murder investigation. What on earth happened? Welcome to Bitter Clues. My name is Jennifer, and I will be narrating today's story. Let's dive right in. Today's story is a horrific case that occurred in Niigata City, Niigata Prefecture, Japan. Niigata City is a port city with a beautiful sea. Among its areas, the Nishi Ward district is a quiet residential neighborhood with many homes, making it a good place to raise children. The victim was a girl named Omomo Tamao, who was 7 years old and in the 2nd grade of elementary school at the time. In Japan, children typically enter elementary school around 6 to 7 years old. On May 7, 2018, Tamao was found after being struck by a JR train line passing through the Aoyama area of Nishi Ward in Niigata City. However, 10 minutes before this incident occurred, another train had already passed through the same section. That means that within those 10 minutes, it is possible that someone murdered the child and then dumped the body on the tracks to disguise it as an accident. The scene was near JR Kobari Station, and the tracks were not completely open. They were low, but fencing had been installed. This location was only about 100 meters in a straight line from Tamao's home. Something like this happened right near her house. Tamao attended Kobari Municipal Elementary School nearby. The heartbreaking part is that just 1 month earlier, she had been living in another area and moved to this neighborhood when she advanced to 2nd grade. She had an older brother, and a family of 4 lived together with their parents. Tamao reportedly loved flowers, plants, and playing in water. That day, she went to school as usual, and school ended. The weather was cloudy, with a few raindrops falling, though it was not pouring. At 3:20 in the afternoon, Tamao finished school and was walking home with a friend, joking and talking. After walking for a while, they reached a fork in the road. From there, their directions home were different, so they had to part ways. They said, "Let's have fun again tomorrow," and separated. That spot was about 200 meters from the scene of the incident. Later, there was testimony that a witness saw Tamao walking alone after she parted with her friend. As Tamao was walking home alone, a loud crash occurred. A traffic accident happened. Fortunately, it did not appear to be life-threatening or cause severe injury, but Tamao was terrified. A man got out of the car and said, "Are you okay? Let's go to the hospital." And he put Tamao in the car. Inside the car, Tamao said, "My head hurts so much. Please call my mom," and asked to contact her guardian. But the man suddenly spoke harshly and said, "What are you talking about? Be quiet." Tamao found the entire situation frightening and unfamiliar. At 7 years old, she was extremely young. She began to cry and sob loudly, saying she wanted her mother and asking to be taken to her. At that, the man became angry and strangled the small child. Tamao lost consciousness inside the car. The car then headed toward a sparsely populated coastal area. It was a parking lot at a plaza called Niigata's Meeting Square, located about 2 kilometers from the abduction location. After parking, the man committed additional criminal acts against the unconscious child. In the middle of it, Tamao regained consciousness. She was terrified. She screamed, cried, and tried to push him away, and the perpetrator began strangling her again. This time, he strangled her for more than 5 minutes. It was determined that Tamao died of asphyxiation at that time. This was around 1 hour and 30 minutes after the traffic incident, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Normally, she would have returned home by then, but as time passed and she did not arrive, her mother became worried. She called the homeroom teacher. "Hello, our Tamao usually comes home within about 2 hours, but she still hasn't come. Is she still at school?" The teacher replied, "Yes, she left school and went home, ma'am." Tamao still had not arrived. The teacher and Tamao's mother searched the neighborhood from the school to the home, but Tamao was nowhere to be found. Her mother grew more anxious and eventually filed a missing person report at the police station. Since only a few hours had passed since she went missing, the investigation began quite quickly. Tamao's friend, her mother, local residents, teachers, police, and everyone who knew her searched desperately. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. It was getting darker as night approached. Who was the man who kidnapped and killed Tamao? His name was Kobayashi Ryo. He was born in Niigata City, Niigata Prefecture, in 1995, and he was 23 years old at the time. On the surface, his family background seemed normal. He had 1 older sister and 1 younger sibling, and they were a family of 5. In his school days, he was described as quiet and ordinary. What is chilling is that the elementary school Kobayashi attended was the same Kobari Municipal Elementary School that the victim, Tamao, was attending. In other words, Kobayashi was a local from this neighborhood. Classmates said Kobayashi was so kind that he never got angry at anyone and had never hit anyone even once. He had somewhat of an otaku side, but he was so gentle that it was hard to imagine him harming anyone. At the time of the incident, Kobayashi was an office worker. He had been employed at a large electrical construction company in Niigata City, mainly responsible for electrical wiring and installing lighting. His coworkers remembered him as a reliable employee who, over 6 years of employment, had never once been absent without notice and had never caused trouble. They said he was diligent, kind, and always participated in company dinners. He communicated well at work, got along with people, and appeared to be a solid 23-year-old young man with nothing strange about him. But Kobayashi was a criminal wearing a perfect mask. He only revealed to very close friends that he had an interest in certain erotic content. One friend said that around middle school, Kobayashi became deeply interested in anime and games, and especially liked works featuring pretty girl characters. When you look at offenders like this, they often start with smaller crimes, then become bolder, and eventually escalate to murder. Kobayashi was the same. In January of 2018, he first got arrested for child pornography, and 3 months later, in April, he was reported for committing obscene acts involving a junior high school girl. Now returning to the day of the incident, while police and family members were searching desperately for Tamao, time passed inside the car, and Kobayashi wanted to commit further acts. This is what is referred to as intercourse with a corpse. As time passed after death, the body began to cool and stiffen. Kobayashi said it was too stiff and wondered if this was rigor mortis, and he wanted it to feel like the body was alive. So he did something deranged. He went home alone, filled a large container with hot water, and then drove to a sparsely populated parking lot. At that time, it was 7 o'clock in the evening. After parking, he poured the hot water onto the child's body to create artificial warmth, and then committed further acts. After several tens of minutes, Kobayashi wanted to dispose of the body. He searched online, looking up things like disposing of a body museum, jumping onto tracks, and track surveillance cameras. He ultimately chose the method of dumping the body on the railway tracks. He thought that if a train struck the body, its form would be badly damaged, and then it might be handled as an accident. To make it look like the child entered the tracks alone, he also threw the shoes and bag nearby. At 10 o'clock at night, he disposed of the body on the railway tracks. Nearby, police and family members were still desperately searching for Tamao. At 10:30 at night, an incident occurred in which a JR Echigo Line train collided with the body. The train operator said he noticed a person lying on the tracks and applied the brakes quickly, but it was too late. It was night, and the person was lying down rather than standing, so the operator only noticed at the last moment. There were 170 passengers on the train. Fortunately, there were no major additional casualties, but because of the incident, 7 trains in both directions were stopped or delayed, affecting more than 1,400 passengers. After searching for the child for a long time, the police told the parents, "It is too late now, so please go home for today. We will continue searching," and sent them back home. Then, shortly afterward, a call came to the house. The mother asked with hopeful anticipation, "Did you find our child?" The police said, "Please stay calm and listen. A fatal accident occurred on the nearby tracks a short while ago. We think you need to come right away." When the parents arrived at the scene, they identified their daughter's body, with the neck and torso separated. As soon as they confirmed it, they collapsed and wept for a long time. When the police examined the body, something seemed strange. If she had been struck by a train with enough force to separate the body, there should have been massive bleeding, but there was very little blood. Also, the operator said the person was lying down and was seen late. Could a 7-year-old girl lie down on the tracks by herself to die? There were severe bruising marks on Tamao's face. Forensic results found signs consistent with strangulation and also evidence of sexual assault. The police reclassified the case as murder and began investigating people living near the scene. When there are few leads, one of the most common steps is to check known offenders living nearby, because such crimes are rarely committed only once. The police believed the perpetrator likely had prior offenses. There were no surveillance cameras at the immediate scene. Police set up checkpoints near the area and asked citizens to provide dashcam footage in case someone's vehicle had recorded the situation. The day after the crime, Kobayashi cleaned his car thoroughly to erase traces, even getting the seats professionally cleaned. He also was absent from work without notice. As mentioned earlier, in 6 years of employment, Kobayashi had never once been absent. This strongly indicated the crime was planned. Kobayashi was a sexual offender with a related criminal history. He had even been reported for taking a junior high school girl with him just 1 month earlier. His desires grew larger, and the form of his crimes escalated. As he searched for a target this time, right before encountering Tamao, he logged out of his phone's Google account to avoid being tracked by police. He also turned off location services so that location data would not be recorded. Because Kobayashi, who had never been absent without notice, did not show up for work, the company called his mother, wondering what was going on. But his mother had no idea he had not gone to work. Around that time, police were already viewing Kobayashi as a strong suspect. Among offenders living in the town, he had a record involving crimes targeting females, and he lived extremely close to the victim's family. Looking at the map, Kobayashi's home and Tamao's home were side by side at a distance of less than 100 meters, reportedly only 1 or 2 minutes on foot. The railway line where the body was dumped was also very close. Decisively, Kobayashi's fingerprints were found on the track fence. And in the dashcam footage provided by citizens, Kobayashi's vehicle was captured both on Tamao's route home from school and at the location where the body was dumped. The next day, on May 8th, police called the company to interview Kobayashi. They asked, "This is the police station. Is Kobayashi Ryo your employee?" The company replied, "Yes." The police asked, "Did he come to work today?" But Kobayashi did not come to work that day either. As repeated calls came from the police, the company also sensed something serious was happening. On May 14th at 7:30 in the morning, police found Kobayashi's vehicle in Niigata City and followed it until it stopped. A total of 3 police vehicles tailed him. After driving for a long time, Kobayashi stopped at a rest area. It was the Niigata Furusato Mura rest area parking lot, about 4 kilometers from Kobayashi's home. Police arrested him immediately. It is unclear whether he truly planned to die, but charcoal briquettes and a lighter were found in his car. Kobayashi went to the police station without significant resistance. He was questioned all day, and at first, he did not admit to the crime. Police searched Kobayashi's car and found additional pornographic images of other girls among his belongings. He was charged with violating the child pornography prohibition law. In other words, they intended to hold him until he admitted to the crime. During the investigation, it was also revealed that 2 days before he was caught, on May 12th, he had been planning another crime. Evidence was found that he used a dating app to approach a minor and sent messages saying he would give money if they met. It was truly disgusting. Kobayashi's crimes were not impulsive. He always planned them thoroughly and continuously attempted sexual crimes targeting minors. Over time, Kobayashi began to acknowledge the crime. Eventually, at 10 o'clock at night, he was formally arrested on charges including murder, forcible sexual assault, damaging a corpse, disposing of a corpse, and obstructing the safe operation of a train. After the perpetrator was caught, the victim's father said, "Catching the perpetrator doesn't bring our daughter back," he said. Even so, he added that, as a parent, he was determined to uncover the full truth about what had happened to his child, no matter how long it took. The formal trial for this case was held 1.5 years later, on November 8, 2019, at the Niigata District Court. The claims Kobayashi made at that time were also absurd. Prosecutors argued that on May 7, 2018, while the victim was on her way home from school, the defendant struck her from behind with his car, kidnapped her, committed sexual crimes, strangled her to death, and later that night dumped her body on the railway tracks. These were the established facts. In response, Kobayashi said, "Yes, it is true that I intended to commit sexual acts, but I absolutely did not intend to kill her. I only tried to make her quiet. I only meant to make her lose consciousness. This was not a planned crime." He also made the frustrating claim that he did not really know whether placing the body on the tracks actually created a danger to train operations. He added, "I previously had an experience where I had a relationship with a minor I met online. At that time, the other person asked me to strangle them, and they passed out. So this time as well, I only strangled the girl to make her pass out." He insisted, "I did not commit sexual acts, and I had no motive to kill." Murder is only established when a person acts with the intention to kill the other person. So I believe this should not be murder, but rather a charge of injury resulting in death. It was unbelievably shameless. He brought about a car incident, put her in his car, strangled her, committed sexual crimes, killed her, and dumped her body. Yet he tried to escape responsibility by claiming it was injury resulting in death. And it did not end there. He also claimed in court that the sexual crime would not apply because it was not committed against a living person, but against a body that was already deceased. In court, the judge asked the father, "What feelings do you have toward the defendant?" The father, nearly in tears, said it was so horrific that he could barely speak. He said that even after 1 year had passed since the incident, the defendant had not apologized even once. He said that even if the defendant were punished, it would not ease their anger, and that there must have been moments when the defendant could have stopped during the crime, yet he chose not to, until the end. He stated that this was not impulsive, but a planned crime. The first trial ended with prosecutors and the defense clashing. Prosecutors argued that the defendant treated the victim not as a human being, but as an object, prioritized only his own sexual desire, and gravely violated the dignity of life, and they sought the death penalty. However, the first ruling sentenced him to life imprisonment. Citizens and the media also raised their voices, questioning whether that was a just verdict and arguing that the standards for the death penalty should be reviewed again. Several months later, on September 24, 2022, the second trial began. Prosecutors argued that the defendant strangled the victim for more than 5 minutes, which clearly showed intent to kill. A doctor testified that from a forensic standpoint, even if it was not 5 full minutes, it was confirmed that the strangulation lasted at least 3 to 4 minutes. When first arrested, Kobayashi had admitted to all the crimes, but now he was changing his story. In court, he was asked why he had admitted and then changed his statement. Kobayashi said that during police questioning, the police kept pressuring him, saying they had clear evidence, and he began to doubt himself, thinking maybe he had done it. He said he made statements the police wanted, but after meeting his lawyer and reviewing his memories in detail, he concluded that what he said at the police station was not true. Footage of the police interrogation was played in court. Police asked whether the physiological reaction found in the body meant something had happened before death, meaning it happened while the victim was alive. Kobayashi responded, "She was alive." Kobayashi insisted that because the police kept saying they had evidence, he said those things even though he did not remember. And he continued to claim he was forced to confess. In the second trial as well, Kobayashi continued to insist that such acts did not happen while she was alive, saying that although he committed acts afterward, it was not a sexual crime because the punishment for sexual crimes is heavier. After the trial ended and Kobayashi came outside, there were reporters and citizens present, and the victim Tamao's family was also there. Kobayashi said, "I am sorry. I will continue to reflect and apologize." Hearing that, the bereaved family shouted, asking if he was joking, and who would believe his remorse. After the first verdict, the judge had told Kobayashi that if he truly wanted to apologize, he should lie face down on the ground and bow repeatedly every day until his feelings reached the bereaved family. The family asked if he remembered those words. Kobayashi said he remembered. They asked whether he was still bowing on the ground multiple times every day. Kobayashi answered absurdly, saying that in detention, he merely put his hands together. The bereaved family said that 3 years had passed since the incident, but they had not received even a single message or letter, and the compensation of 80 million yen had not been paid at all. They asked whether he truly felt remorse. The second ruling maintained life imprisonment, not the death penalty. In the end, it is always only the victims and their families whose lives are shaken. Even with life imprisonment, there is the possibility of sentence suspension or parole. If he pretends to be remorseful, he could potentially return to society in his mid-50s. It felt deeply unfair. In fact, it was said that the body had no evidence of impact consistent with being struck by a car. That means it is possible that his claim about a traffic incident and putting her in the car was a lie. He claimed there was no prior acquaintance and that it was impulsive. But the victim was a neighboring girl, and he was a sexual offender. So he may have selected the victim in advance. In my view, it seems likely that he had been watching Tamao for a long time and carried out the crime in a planned manner. After all trials ended, Tamao's father said that something like this must never happen again, and that measures such as attaching GPS monitoring to sexual offenders or fundamental countermeasures to eliminate such crimes are needed. He asked that no more victims like his daughter be created. In the United States and many other countries, people with prior sexual offense records are strictly monitored and managed with continued oversight and education. In Japan, however, such management is said to be rarely carried out due to human rights concerns. A person who commits such a crime even once can always do something dangerous again. After this case, surveillance cameras were installed in passages where people do not often pass, and various crime prevention activities were carried out nationwide. This is all the story I prepared today. Thank you again for watching until the end. My name is Jennifer. I will return with the next story. Until then, everyone, stay safe.